Hey, this is V, and I've just finished reading This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. So, about 10 years before this story officially begins, there was a major battle. Like, basically, 4 people saved the realm from darkness. Think really typical epic fantasy type story. And these 4 people are now celebrated as really great heroes. Only for them, the last battle was actually a major tragedy because their leader, called Galwell, actually died during that battle, and the 3 survivors essentially fell apart without him. Like, he was the leader, he was the one that everyone thought of as being like the hero, he was the one who was supposed to marry the princess, he was the one that everyone looked up to, and the one who held like the group together. So after he died, like, the rest of them feel varying degrees, I guess, of survivor's guilt and like responsibility and inadequacy, like in his absence. So instead of remaining really close like they were when he was alive, they all go their separate ways, and now 10 years later, things have kind of reached an all-time low in a lot of their lives, except that they are now all being called back to attend the like queen's wedding, and none of them can really refuse, whether it's out of a sense of obligation or like because she is still a friend of theirs, even though their history is really complicated. So this story goes through like chapters from each of these characters' points of view. So that includes Elowen, who's the sister of the person who was killed, and she's also a really powerful like heart magician. Like, this world divides magic into 3 big categories: hand, heart, and head. So it kind of depends on what sense, I suppose, and what material you're affecting. Like, hand magicians are the ones who can actually turn materials from one thing into another. And actually, most people, it seems like, in this world have gifts, though whether or not they're really useful or how strong they are, it varies like a great deal. But anyways, she can sense people's emotions, and this makes it really hard, I guess, for her to interact well with other people. And she now lives like all by herself in this really isolated tree house where she gets everything by delivery and doesn't really have relationships with anybody, like her old friends, her old family, whatever. Then there is Claire. He used to be a bandit, and he's the one who's kind of leaned into their reputation. Like, he feels like he needs to not replace, I guess, but be the hero that Galwell can't be since he's dead. So he needs to be the one that people can look up to and be the one that is there since the other person isn't. So he's also kind of used that fame, though, to earn some money, since he comes from a not very good background. So, he had like advertisement deals and so on, but his life feels a little bit like he's playing the part of himself, which I guess for him is a kind of a weird feeling. But also he's really hung up on the last member of their group, who is also his ex, not quite girlfriend, I guess, called Beatrice. So Beatrice just got divorced. Like, she was from a really poor family to begin with and wanted to marry wealthy. And also she didn't want to depend on like the money that the queen provided after they won the battle, since she doesn't really feel like she deserves to get anything, since she blames herself very intensely for the death of their leader. But anyway, she married a nobleman, thought that she was living an okay life for a while, but now everything is really going downhill. Like, she has a really bad habit of revisiting the past, literally, because her magic lets her go back into her own and other people's memories and to view them or relive them, depending on like if it's her own or someone else's. And she can also bring other people with her, and for like the past 10 years, that's pretty much all she's been doing. Like, she's been going back and punishing herself by revisiting like the moment that the person died, which obviously is not mentally very healthy. She's also still very hung up on her ex not quite a boyfriend, like the bandit, because things that relationship didn't go the way that she originally thought it would, and there's a lot of hurt feelings and misunderstandings on all sides. But now they all have to come together to support the queen in her hour of need, I guess. Well, not exactly. But so yeah, like as they make this journey and make this commitment, I guess they also start running into like both people that they used to know when they were still good friends, and old enemies that they used to know. And there seems to be more going on than they originally thought. Like, it's not just going to be a wedding. It seems like there may be bad guys still, and they may need to revisit, I guess, some of the their old skills and old abilities, and try to figure out how to possibly save the realm again. So something that I liked. The world was kind of interesting. Like, it's fantasy, but has a lot of fantasy world equivalents, I guess, of modern technology. So for instance, television soap operas, they have a version called shadow plays, which they have magicians called conjurers who use magic to broadcast it to different people. And then, like, for instance, their version of something kind of like Uber and Lyft is called Wagons for You, where they have a system that people can pay less for transportation. I guess so. It's kind of fun to see how these modern conveniences, I guess, are translated into a world where they just substitute scientific type technology with magical technology and different like magical abilities. I also think Claire's sections in particular, like, he was a really dramatic kind of person in his head, and a lot of his sections did make me laugh. Like, I still remember like his opening introduction, because he's a serious womanizer, but he also, like, he only has one night stands, but he prides himself on treating his partners right, and that includes remembering their names. So like his intro section, he was having this major freak out in his head because he couldn't remember the name of the woman he woke up with. So he goes through this whole charade of like bringing her out for drinks and stuff, where he's doing like all these different tricks to try to get her to tell someone else her name so that he can pretend that he never forgot it. And I just found that entire scene like extremely amusing, and most of his sections in general, like, I found pretty humorous. But something I did not like. Honestly, I think both of the female characters started to really annoy me. Like, I'm sympathetic that they're depressed and that, the people they cared about hurt their feelings or whatever, but they kind of lose my sympathy because they turn around and like hurt other people. Like, just because you're hurting doesn't give you the right to like go and be nasty and stuff to the people who care about you. And it often felt like, for instance, Beatrice in particular often assumed the worst of other people, and like people who think that way just tend to grate on my nerves in the long run. So I didn't end up having like that much I wasn't that interested in like their love lives and how they work things out, because it was getting kind of annoying. But yeah, so a warning that this is a romance story, and it was very seriously a romance story. Like, I found it a little too hairy because there's a major focus on romantic relationships, like a tiny bit on friendship relationships, but primarily on romantic relationships, and there's a lot of agonizing and a lot of angsting and miscommunications and all of that kind of tense drama with the love-hate type thing. Like, that kind of dynamic as a type of romance line, I just don't technically have a lot of patience for.